Good evening and good morning for those who are tuning in from the US, those who are tuning in from Africa and the Asian continent. I trust that you are having a fantastic week and you're looking forward for a very fabulous weekend. Today, we are kicking off a series of calls for the Energy Mentors Power the Community competitions. This is our first call for this year 2024-2025 edition. And first, let me introduce myself. My name is Ian Kiprono. I'm the participant coordinator. I think a lot of you, I've met a number of you in our orientation meetings, and we have talked about. Apart from being the participant coordinator, I'm finally a mechanical engineering student at Marward University. I love to talk about sustainability. I love to talk about off-grid power solutions, and recently I've loved to talk about autonomous systems. That is automation of or industry 5.0, 4.0, 5.0. Those are my areas of expertise. Why we are having this call? See, this is the first series of calls where we will be inviting a guest who is a retiree, like our guest today, a working professional, or a stakeholder in the energy sector. We will have this series of calls rolling because we would like to give you a first person's view into what goes on in the energy sector. The call will be by interview, or it will be just be doing chats. From this, we will be able to decode the enigma called the energy domain. I know for some it's very hard to even to imagine what goes on inside the energy domain, what the innings and the outings in the energy domain, what is needed. Let me tell you why energy matters. First of all, energy, for example, we know that the first principle of energy, that is energy can neither be created nor destroyed. But sometimes you hear that we need to conserve this energy. We need to save the energy, but it can never be destroyed nor it can never be created. Why should we conserve it? For example, you need to do work, you need energy, you need power, you need a force. That force is energy. Even if we look for this minute things like dislodging an electron or gaining an electron from inside an atom, energy is needed. If it's needed in such small things, then that means that energy is very important in our day-to-day life. Even if we look at international bodies like the UN has set aside SDG number 7, that is affordable and clean energy that should be available for everyone. That is something that has been set aside just for energy. That's why we are talking about this energy domain. And how we come in as energy mentors, this is where we add value in you being an energy professional, in you being an energy enthusiast. It's not just about the competition. We'd like to add value to you in your knowledge about the energy. That said, I would like to give a shout out to our guest today, who is none other than Don Victory. Don Victory is the founder, and Don Victory is the founder of Energy Mentors, which is a charitable organization that is sponsoring this competition for the community, which is an international college design competition. Don Victory retired from ExxonMobil in May 2022 as an upstream chief process engineer. His areas of focus included sustainability, energy transition, reducing the cost and carbon intensity of natural gas, LNG, and hydrogen. Integrative design for major capital projects. He also did mentoring scaled innovation deployments. In his career that spanned over 40 years, Don had assignments in research, operations, design, project management, risk assessment, and management in locations as diverse as Japan, the Russian Federation, Malaysia, New Orleans, and his hometown in Houston. In addition, Don has supported energy development in Indonesia, Qatar, Iraq, Australia, Romania, Kazakhstan, Canada, and the United States, plus a petrochemical development in the United States and Asia. So today, that is just a small profile of our speaker today. So Dawn, before we get started, can you just give us an opening statement and give us an overview of what you have in mind today? Over to you, Dawn.
Hey, thanks, Ian. Well, I think the main thing is to make sure that we get all the students who are online comfortable and accessible to the opportunity they have for Power of the Community. There's very little joining barriers. It's easy to self-nominate, and that's what I think we're hoping to do today. So, I've been in the energy industry 40 years. A couple years ago, I was facing retirement, and I had to decide what was I going to do with myself in retirement? Do I just sit back and read books and drink coffee, or should I do something a little bit more ennobling? And so I created Energy Mentors because I thought if in some small way I could share my accumulated knowledge with a rising generation of potential energy professionals, that then maybe they could get these lessons learned and kickstart their career to help bring solutions to society. So that's what we're here to talk about. And it's an Ask Me Anything forum, and let's go from there. So what's next, Ian?
Fantastic. Like you had Dawn said, you ask him anything form. So I hope you guys will be ready with the answers. You'd like to be unmuted and you ask your question. That session will come in the Q&A session. If you'd like me to read out your questions, type it in the chat box. I'll be able to forward it to Dawn and we'll get the answer. So, so Dawn, now that you've introduced about the community and energy mentors, I have a small question here. What triggered you to start? You've already said that you wanted to give back to the community and such, but what triggered you to start Energy Mentors, and why focus on powering the community?
Well, I already addressed the bigger picture question. One thing I actually read in an article by Arthur Brooks that was published in 2019, and this was as I was approaching my retirement, so about 3 years out, was that, believe it or not, old people like me don't come up with new innovative ideas. It's really young people that do, and this is across all segments of society. So if you look at music, Mozart or Bach when they were young were really innovative, even the Beatles. If you look at artists, a lot of their breakthrough work was done when they were young and forming. But what someone like me, who's in the 60s, can bring is accumulated knowledge of what works and what doesn't work. And so if you fuse agile intelligence of young people with the accumulated knowledge of people who are more experienced, that becomes a real Kickstarter where that experience can help young people bring their ideas to life faster, maybe prevent them from going down some dead-end trails that didn't work before, but then steer them maybe to where they can really bring those ideas to life. So that's a little bit about why I started Energy Mentors. It was like, hey, why not share what I learned? Now, your question about community. I did a lot of layout work in my career for oil and gas type facilities. And what I found is when I was laying out the components of a plant, if I increased the boundary of the scope of what I was looking at, I had more opportunity for innovative solutions. And like when I look at how solar is being built around Houston, in a lot of cases, we have retail solar going on roofs of individual houses after the house is built. So it's from a first principles point of view, not very effective. It's kind of retail construction. And so if we go from, so if the design was only one house, one office building, one school, you have a smaller canvas in order to innovate. If you get it too big, like countrywide, it becomes too nebulous. So that's why I picked community, because you can identify the needs of the community, what their aspirations are, and you have a broader canvas where you can look to create the energy infrastructure and innovate on. So you could identify the aspirations of the community, what they want in terms of affordability, sustainability, reliability, and you then have ways that you don't necessarily have to put solar, for example, on the rooftop of every house. You could put it on the school, or you could put it over a parking garage, or you could put it in a field that's empty. So it gives you different degrees of freedom in order to innovate. That makes sense?
I see, it makes sense. I get you, John. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic opening. As we move on now to one more question about the community, is I believe that the participants would like to go into what goes on behind the scenes in Power the Community. Can you take us on a tour around what goes on in, behind the scenes in Power the Community, how the competition is organized, how the competition gets to be. And another question I want to put there is why the open-ended question. Like, for example, you choose your community, you choose the problem that is faced in that community. If you can answer that.
Sure. So we're trying to make the competition as real world as possible. And there's pros and cons. Okay. If you're in the business world, there's a large open canvas. Sometime in student competitions, there's a very narrow definition. And what we're really trying to do is two things at once. We're trying to inspire the next generation of energy innovators, and we're also trying to bring their ideas forward. And so, how can we do that best? So one approach we took is we reduced all barriers to entry. There's no fee to join. You don't need your university to officially sponsor you. You don't need a professor to say, okay, I certify this team. It's basically any student with an internet connection can opt in. Second, why do we say we want people to choose the location where they wish to build a community? And why don't we give like a scoring matrix so students can know what the judges might think is valuable? Well, that might all destroy innovation. First of all, in order to bring a real world solution forward, you need to be grounded literally in the real world. And what better way than to pick a piece of real estate in your own community where you might happen to know, where you either grew up or are going to school, or maybe you've investigated, and dealing with the realities on the ground. What natural resources do they have in terms of solar radiance or wind potential or geothermal potential? What connections might be available to the utility? What is the salaries of the emerging citizens who might be first generation university students? So unless you are specific about having a customer focus, and Steve Jobs, when he was at Apple and growing that company, was very specific about the customer is the only focus. So by focusing on people in community, you can understand and that can ground your design. The second part of it is we don't have a scoring matrix that the judges use because we're really trying to judge innovation. And if we say you get so many points for this element or so many points for that element, it's really going to constrain thinking on what is possible to bring forward a design. So we want to really stimulate innovation. And the best way to do that is it does make it a little bit more challenging for the students, but it is close to the real world and prepares them better for their careers after college to say, okay, it's not like a professor is giving us how to get the maximum score on this competition. I need to focus on solving real solutions for my community with solid technology and innovative approaches.
Great. That's one of the perfect answers I think we can have for the question. I don't know. if you can talk about last year's edition of For the Community competition. What were the key takeaways from last year's competition, and what would you say that made the winners and get the prizes that and distinguished prizes that they got, and what can you say about our current competition this year?
Okay, and we actually have a prize winner on the phone, Mirzir. So maybe we'll have him talk a little bit. He wasn't ready maybe for that. So last year was our first year. We have a panel of 5 independent judges. I'm not a judge, so I'm giving my observations on what they valued. But no one with Energy Mentors organization is a judge. We create the platform, we solicit the entries, and we have independent judges. We have a CEO of a Fortune 500 company as our lead judge. We have a leader of project management in an AI software company. We have an architect who was raised in Nigeria, who's with an architecture firm in Washington, D.C. We have an electrical engineer coming from the country of Mali. I know I'm forgetting one other judge, and we're going to, oh yeah, we have a business transformation specialist from a large business consulting firm. We had 4 prize winners last year. We said we're going to give away $31,000. The grand prize, the Energy Innovators Award, is $10,000. And then we left the other the prizes to the discretion of the judges in terms of the categories and the amounts. The team that won, Creativity and Sustainability, very interesting team. A student from Zimbabwe and a student from Northern India who happened to be studying at an American university, who met at freshman orientation, who came across this competition, decided to get together every Sunday morning and work on their design and submitted it. They designed a community in Zimbabwe that spoke to the needs of the people. They do have electricity from the utility grid, but it's very unreliable. So they made very cost-effective houses, backed up the power with solar and batteries, used natural ventilation in order to keep demand low, but their focus was on keeping access to electricity so people can run their computers and internet so students can go to school. So that was the prize-winning team. Amazing that they're not traditional engineering students. One is biomedical and the other one's computer science. But they took on the challenge and they learned how to bring forward a solution. Another team was Belrose Energy Company. And this gets a little bit to innovation. Remember I said we don't have rules on how to join? These were 2 students in high school who decided to step up to a university competition and put together a very credible geothermal design for the island republic of Dominica in order to provide energy resiliency in a hurricane-prone area. And so, the judges asked me, hey, what do we do with this entry from high school students? Are they allowed to enter? And I said, there's nothing in the rules that says you can be too old or too young. So you judge it on its merits. So very interesting that they brought that design. We had another team, Jellyfish, from the University of Houston, where their professors used the prompt of the competition as the course curriculum for their capstone project. And they got the prize for distinguished design for urban planning on how to redevelop an area of Houston, building in energy efficiency and modern technology when that's done. And the last winner was Aerodynamos, mostly 4 students from the Mangalore Institute of Technology, plus one other student from another university in India, who incorporated 7 different design technologies into reimagining the energy infrastructure in their home state in India. So a wide variety of approaches. All of these students opted in. There was only the teams from the University of Houston who got course credit for it. But they all, we paid out the prize money fairly quickly. But I think they all learned from the process of stepping up and help to get a kickstart for their career.
Fantastic, Don. Thank you so much for highlighting the winners of last year's edition. Now, as we switch gears now, we know Don has been in the industry for over 40 years. I would like now Don to tell us something about his career. Let's take the years back to when you joined. Now, I understand that you were at UConn too, University of Connecticut, right?
That is correct.
And then now, straight from UConn, can you tell us how it happened that you joined the industry and how you joined the industry?
So I was in university 1977 to 1981. It was a time of energy transition and energy disturbance. There were two oil price shocks, one's around 73, 74, another one around 79, 80. So the world was short of energy, and energy prices were increasing. The University of Connecticut is in the Northeast United States. Texas is way down in the middle south of the United States. So it's almost as if I changed countries and cultures when I went from the Northeast to Texas. But they were looking for any engineer with a heartbeat, and I guess I qualified. Now, as it turned out, about 4 months into my career, and I was a little clueless, but I did throw myself into it. Oil prices peaked at a price of $40 a barrel then, which was an all-time high, which would be equivalent to $150 to $200 a barrel today. So things were booming. As it turned out, the oil prices went down for the next 17 years. So when I was starting out, I came in right at the top of a boom, and we had 17 years of oil price decline, which was an opportunity for the consumers, but it was also something that, I had to figure out, how do I add value every day in order to contribute? So that was my initiation into the industry. That was what you were looking for?
Yes, of course. That I wanted to know, so that it gives us as young individuals or people who would like to get into the industry a way in and how we can join the industry based on your story.
Yeah. So let me add to that. I mean,
now that you are in the
if I can add to that, I think I did intentionally opt in. In university, I not only took process engineering courses, I took a advanced course in energy strategy, where we looked at solar, nuclear, what was going on at the time. The professor made us research 40 different articles and critique them on the energy industry. So I think I did make a conscious decision to opt into the energy industry, and was looking for opportunities. So that's probably a key lesson is self-empowering. Decide, okay, bringing energy to the citizens of the world that's reliable and affordable is a ennobling endeavor. I once thought about it in terms of powering people's progress. And if you say that's what you're going to do, then get in, and there's lots of learning opportunities, and leverage those learning opportunities.
Fantastic. Now that you're in the energy industry, and now that you've joined the energy industry in our question, and now you are in the Yukon. Yukon is located on the north, and now you're coming to the south in Texas. Apart from changing the location, changing your geographical location, what was some of the notable transformation that you had to undergo as a young professional in order to fit into this professionalism as
Yeah, probably one of the most pivotal moments in my career was about 6 years in the career. I think it was about 1986, 87. Up in that point, I had only done two things. I had worked on engineering computing programs, and I worked to build and design a pilot plant that only worked with methane and carbon dioxide. So those were my two experiences. And one day, my department manager called me down to a meeting. And when I walked in, there was an executive from a business unit there. And I didn't know why I was there, but I was listening. And the executive was describing a water treating problem that they had and was going on about, what are the challenges and what types of considerations need to be taken into account in order to make a large investment decision. And my department manager looked over at the executive and said, "Scott, you're in luck. I have my water treating expert sitting right here." And I'm like looking around saying, I know nothing about water, but I kept my mouth shut and I really listened closely for the rest of the meeting. And then the executive left, and the department manager, he was about 60 again. I'm in my 20s. And I looked over at him. I said, "Oscar, what are you talking about? You know I've never worked in water treating. All I've done is program computers and work with light hydrocarbons." And he kind of looked at me, turned around to his bookcase, pulled out this old crusty book, slammed it on the table. And he said, "That's the best water treating book from 1957. In 3 decades, water chemistry hasn't changed yet. If you take this book home tonight and read it cover to cover, tomorrow you'll be a water treating expert." Okay, I was challenged. So that's what I did. And as it turned out, I learned about water chemistry and concentrations and when molecules might precipitate if concentrations get to a certain balance, and wound up running some computer programs predicting that solids wouldn't form. They could go ahead and make the investment decision in confidence. What I really took away from that is that an essential skill in life is learning how to learn. That I didn't know anything about water chemistry when I went into that meeting, but within 24 hours, I knew more than most. And with some practice and then using some mentors to check my work, I got to an answer that was pretty significant. And if you kind of look at what like SpaceX is doing, right? They're solving problems. They're learning to learn in order to solve problems. Just last week, they caught a booster rocket back on the stand. No one knew how to do that before they learned how to do that. They had to apply principles, but they got about how to do it. So probably the best career hack a person can have is saying, "Okay, right now I do not know how to do this, but there are resources available. I will learn." It's okay to say, "I'm going to go learn how to solve this problem for you. Go away and figure out how to do something and come back." So that was probably the most transformative thing in my career. Does that make sense? Ian, did I lose you? I think we lost Ian. If you students don't mind, how about if I kind of continue on? Yep, Ian's booting up. Probably the second most important thing I learned in my career, and this was maybe about 15 years in, was we had one of the best project managers in the company that I happened to be working on his team. And he was retiring. And so we had a retirement dinner for him. And one of the things that he said in his retirement is that he was fortunate to learn early in the career, if you take care of the people will take care of the business. So that's probably the second most important thing. And when I became a manager, that always stuck with me, that if you're going to work in a team, your job as a leader is to make sure you understand what the people's needs are and try to meet them so they can pay attention to the business objective. So there we go. Hey, and you're back.
Yeah, I think I got disconnected for a second there.
Okay.
Okay, I think I also got most of the things that you said. Now that you talked about your career, the decisions you make. Now let's talk about one decision that you're really proud of making as a professional or as a manager. What is that decision, and how did you come about making it, and how did it make you feel?
Okay. Well, people love talking about success. If you look at LinkedIn, everyone says, "Hey, I'm happy to announce." Uh, but we should probably also talk about our fails. And so, about a year after that water treating incident, I became a group leader, and we had a large investment decision the company was making in it, and the project team came to our central engineering group, and they wanted us to review their design and kind of give it a stamp of approval, write a letter, so they could give it to the corporate managers to say, hey, this investment decision is solid. And I was now a 7-year engineer, and I was leading a team that included some people that were 30 years experience. And we looked at the design, and the design was technically sound. It had a lot of assurance built in it. In fact, it almost had too much. There was lots of claptrap in the design that allowed them to operate in various different ways. And in some ways, my impression at the time was over the top. The project team said, the letter we want you to write is only a technical assessment. Don't talk about the business at all. And I chickened out. What I wrote is, the design is very technically sound and well thought out. What I didn't write was, but it has too much design flexibility and capital equipment in it, and it could be valued engineered, if you will. The project was built, and actually for a number of years had a pretty low rate of return because it had too much capital invested. So I didn't quite have the courage of my convictions to say what needed to be said. If I had written that in the cover letter, my department manager would have signed off on it, and maybe they would have stripped some of that stuff out of the design. So now, about 15 years later, I join a project team, and I again walk into one of those crisis moments where I joined the project team as an engineering leader. The company had just awarded a large contract, very large contract, to a company to build a design, and the company was floundering. When I in engineering talked to the people in procurement, who talked to people in construction planning, we rated their progress on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being great, 1 being low, and the cumulative score was something like 1.2. Nothing was working. But we had just awarded this contract, and a lot of very experienced people awarded this contract a number of months early. They thought it was going to be successful. So, and now we're only 4 months into the contract, it's not working. So we had to bring forward a story and educate a number of people about what was going on in order for them to think about how they could work to get this contractor to be more successful. It took a couple months. We went and educated lots of people, and within 8 months of the contract award, a mitigation plan was being put in place. Later on, I was told, hey, what you did was above your pay grade. That wasn't expected. And there was a number of people who did it, not just me, but it really took a lot of courage to do that. So, and part of it was thinking back to, there was a time where I didn't have the courage to do that. And so that was a learning lesson, and I didn't repeat the mistake I made earlier in my career.
Fantastic. Now that you're telling us, you've told us about the decisions you've made and how it shaped your career. Can you tell us something about the energy industry, because it's so vast and most of us even don't understand what the meaning and what are the workings of this industry. Elaborate over the years. What has been the changes you have witnessed in the energy domain? What are the emerging trends in the energy scenario of the world? Like, what are the...
Yeah, and actually, this is something that, for 35 years of my career, I did oil and gas and mostly looking at projects. So if you would, it'd be considering energy on individual project basis. It was only in the last years when I was a chief engineer that I had to broaden my horizons and think about the broader business, sustainability, energy delivery. Yeah, I was concerned about making any energy project deliver as low cost energy as possible, but now I had to think about it across society. What has changed? Well, just like computers went from large centralized mainframe computers to mini computers to microcomputers to handheld devices, one trend that we're seeing is distributed energy going from large power plants of a gigawatt. We went building larger and larger scale. And when you think about things like solar, where you could put in solar on a house, very small and distributed, to maybe solar on an industrial scale of maybe 100 megawatts or so, we're seeing a lot more distributed energy, which means that the transmission and distribution requirements are being reduced because we no longer have a power plant kilometers away. We can generate power where we actually need it. Decarbonization is certainly a trend. So the Industrial Revolutions in the 1800s was powered by mostly coal, and then they were using whale oil for lighting. Fortunately, we found petroleum, which saved the whale population. But then we were using oil and then natural gas, which was a waste product. The world still runs on a lot of oil and natural gas. While solar is increasing and renewables are increasing, the amount of natural gas and oil that we use every year has not started to decrease yet. So it's more of an additive of energy rather than a replacement. We are nuclear. Nuclear was, going to be the miracle in the 50s and 60s. There were a few nuclear accidents in the 70s, and a moratorium was almost put on nuclear, though France built out a successful series of reactors and are still benefiting from it today, where they have low-cost power, about $30 a megawatt, about half the price of Germany, very decarbonized, and they're still living off that legacy of nuclear. Well, nuclear was kind of written off, but like in the last month, 3 major corporations driven by AI energy needs have signed nuclear contracts. Microsoft signed to restart 3 Mile Island, where that nuclear accident was in the 70s. Not the reactor that had the accident, but the other reactors that had been since shut down, in order to power an AI data center. Google has signed for nuclear, small modular nuclear reactor, and so has Microsoft, Amazon. So the 3 largest data AI companies, cloud companies, are now recognizing nuclear as a source of continuous energy at moderate cost and decarbonized. Now, to power the community, you're not going to probably have a nuclear reactor in your 2,000 residents household, but from a macro trend, that's a complete flip. And it's driven by the fundamentals of decarbonization, low-cost energy, and reliability. What has not changed? There's a continuing need for providing lower cost energy reliably to the citizens of the world. We still have too many people who are not enjoying energy prosperity. In 1820, 3/4 of the world lived in extreme poverty. Today, it's still about 1/10 of the world population. So 800 million or so, or a billion people, and you have other billions of people that don't have the same standard of living as some of the most developed economies. One of my hypotheses is that as those economies develop and they're building from scratch the infrastructure, they're probably going to get to the same standard of living, but only be consuming 50 or 75% of the energy, because that energy is going to be used and delivered more efficiently. And it's probably going to be the per unit energy, lower carbon intensity too. So that's what I kind of see when I look across the horizon.
Okay, great. Now that you've already introduced AI, I was going to ask you, about your input in how AI is shaping the energy sector, but you've already talked about it. Can I ask you now about, let, let me be a little bit selfish about us as young students, as young professionals who would like to get into the energy sector. What is your go-to advice for us?
I think I kind of mentioned it earlier. Learn how to learn. That's important. And let me go a little bit further on AI. About 8 or 10 years ago, my son was graduating as a chemical engineer, and he had a summer intern job working for a company doing pressure relief analysis. And that was being done by high-priced people and students in Texas. And he asked me, well, is the threat of this potentially that these jobs would be offshored? Should I look at this as a career? And I said, well, the threat, you might think that's the threat, but there's a threat and opportunity. You mentioned AI for automation, because if you think about it, a lot of that pressure relief analysis is kind of repetitive. So it could be actually done by machines. So it again gets back to learning how to learn. In order to make progress, we can't stagnate. We have to let machines and energy do work that humans do, so humans can move on to the next thing. So again, if I look at the lessons, and I mentioned earlier about the price of oil going down 17 years after I joined, the lessons are also the opportunities. Okay. AI automation, is that a threat or an opportunity? It's both. If you stagnate, don't learn, it's a threat. Declining energy prices, is that a threat or an opportunity? Well, for the consumers of the world, people aspiring to a better living standard, that's an opportunity. If energy prices are going down, it's becoming more sustainable, that's what we want as a society. If you learn how to learn and get into those industries and are committed to those trends and work in harmony with those trends, you can wind up with a very long, rewarding career, because you're trying to bring those solutions to the world. So, oil prices and energy prices are not much higher now in real dollars, inflation adjusted terms, than when I joined. So my career wasn't because commodity prices kept on going up. My career was in spite of that. And the only way that can happen is by people bringing innovation, committing to work, learning the fundamentals, and delivering solutions for society.
There you have it, folks. You got the advice that you can get from an experience spanning 40 years in the energy sector. And now we are going to the section of Q&A. So for those who would like to have their questions, to air in their questions, you can actually just notify me that you would like to raise a question or would like to ask a question. Meanwhile, you can also share your question through the chat box. I can sample a few. The first question I'm going to ask you, Don, is about the community. A question came through that if a team has already submitted its project and it doesn't make it to the distinguished awards, or it doesn't make it to the top, to the Energy Innovators Award, can it still get a certificate of participation?
Wow, this is an example of innovation. That's something we hadn't thought of. We didn't do last year. But if someone turns in what I call a compliant design, why shouldn't we do that? Our mission is to inspire a generation of energy professionals. And if people come in, take up the challenge, submit a credible design, they should get recognized. That falls into the category, take care of the people. So, Ian, we didn't do that last year. Let's do it this year.
Fantastic. So whoever asked that question, I believe now you have the answer. Calculations and rendering for the community. I think you can start by
what an example of innovation and collaborative. A very simple question like that could have benefits to lots of people. I'm loving it.
Yes. The question is actually about do you have to think about to choose the place where you're basing your project on in the first place? That was the question. The second concern is, does the problem facing that community need to be directly from that community, or it can be generalized in that community? That kind of a question. Yeah, if I got it right. Yes.
Okay, there's a little break up there, but let's see how well I handle it.
Did you get my question?
I think I did.
It's
So the first
okay.
part is about selection of the community. When I wrote the challenge, I was thinking the first requirement is be grounded in reality, not a hypothetical solution, but one that actually looks at the physical world and looks at the aspirations of a community. Now, as it turned out, the winners last year took a few different approaches. The winning design did a community in Zimbabwe, really leaned into the culture, the aspirations, the socioeconomic development, and hit a sweet spot. They didn't have what I'd call radical innovation. They just had very straightforward designs that solved the aspiration of the community. So obviously, since Rosemary Moyo was from Zimbabwe, she knew the situation on the ground she was designing for. And I think Shai, who's from northern India, could take her experiences in growing up in a similar socioeconomic type environment and do that. Now, we had another team that was assigned the location by the professors, the University of Houston team. But the professor made them get on the ground and walk and understand that. On the other extreme, we had those two high school students from Belrose Energy, and they, Indian heritage students living in Arizona, designing for the island of Dominica, which is down in the Caribbean. They'd never been to the island, but they researched it. They researched it from terms of their economics, threats from hurricanes, what resources were available. And so they picked a location that they weren't directly knowledgeable of, but they used their resources to become knowledgeable in it. So all of those approaches may work, but at the end of the day, the approaches they took were kind of grounded in the needs. In fact, the number one requirement is to describe the aspirations of the community that you're designing to, and the best practice is to quantify it in terms of energy costs, sustainability, carbon intensity. The winning teams did do an estimate of the life cycle carbon reduction for that community in Zimbabwe versus an analog type community, and reliability. So did I cover that well enough, or did I miss an element?
I think you got everything that the community has. I don't think you missed anything. So I don't know, anyone with a question? Okay, there's one more question. What are some of the constraints that that will be have on planning process in the project? Like, for example, a constraint like resource, or we have. I think that one has already been answered. You get to choose everything about yourself. Okay, Don, take it off.
There's only one constraint that I can remember off the top of my head is that anything you design into the project, you have to be able to buy at least one of those things somewhere in the world. So we're not looking for total vaporware imagineering. It can't be science fiction, but it can be cutting edge. And so that is about the only constraint. But but whatever you can bring to the project is okay. If I think about the design that Mir participated with, Aero Dynamo's design, they had seven. They got the distinguished design for bold innovation. They had 7 cutting edge designs that they incorporated into their design. Some of which the judges were, would this really work? But they were really pushing the envelope, and all of it was available. So there was some question that the judges had in deciding, well, would this actually be economic? But the team had that vision, and because they tried incorporating so much cutting edge technology, they thought it was good. Now, one area where I think the teams can step up across the board, there probably wasn't as much what I'd call first level engineering deliverables that I would personally like to see. The winning team did have an energy balance and a carbon intensity calculation. I would like to see more electrical one-line configurations if they're using microgrids and solar to see how the network is connected. So there's not constraints, but I think there's an opportunity for the teams this year. I bet you're going to see a lot more of that technical deliverables in the winners than maybe we saw last year. But that's my hypothesis. I'm not a judge.
For sure. I think the teams have already had what you said.
There's another question
Okay.
from Hein. If we can reduce the energy usage, would that seen as positive? You get to decide that, because you are the ones defining the energy aspirations of your community. And so if you're reducing energy by making things more efficient, that could be a positive. On the design that did one last year, the one for Zimbabwe, they designed their project with natural ventilation in the house. So in summers, they made sure there was windows and ventilations and crossflow. And I asked the design team, well, what do they do in winter? And the answer was they put on a sweater. So if you're reducing waste, that's okay. If people want to live a simpler life cycle, so maybe here's a practical example for better living with less energy. If you design a walkable community where everyone doesn't have to have a car, but can still timely get to the grocery store or get to school, okay, that could be better living, reduced energy, reduced capital costs. They don't need to buy a car. So that's where the degrees of freedom open up. Okay, if you only calculate the usage of your refrigerator and your internet and your electricity, but if you don't consider the broader aspects of your design, where are you locating your community? Are you locating it kilometers out of town and everyone has to drive to work? Are you locating it on the edge of town? Is there mass transit available? Again, those are opportunities where you can have better living and reduced energy consumption for certain functions. If you can walk to school and not take a bus or a car, well, that promotes health. That could be more community. You get to decide that when you lay out the density of your community in terms of how close units of housing are available. So how's that for brainstorming? Hein, does that make sense? Did I get to the essence of your question? You can pop something in the chat.
I think it works for me. Okay, I think Ian doesn't have any other questions.
What other questions do we have?
I think I've already populated all the questions that were for us. Yeah, I only got 3 questions from the chat box. I don't know if anyone has other questions from their end. I'd like to unmute and ask.
I'm going to put Mir on the spot. Mir, if you don't mind turning on your microphone, what did you learn going through the competition last year? Can I ask you that? You're still on mute.
Me, can you hear?
Maybe his connection is frozen.
Okay, no, I don't think it's frozen. He's back. Go ahead, Mir.
Cannot. Any other questions while we're waiting for Mir to connect?
Okay, Mir is connecting. So any other person with any question?
Hey, I will give a clue to the people who are on. An observation I had is people who took advantage of the open office hours and the closed office hour sessions tended to have a higher winning percentage than teams that didn't last year. So by coming and gathering intel and getting the mindset, hopefully being inspired, you're probably increasing your chances of winning. But more so than that, you're probably upskilling yourself and immersing yourself in an environment that could help you be successful in your career. So thank you for showing up. Hopefully you're doing yourself a favor. It's good to see that we have people from different continents on the line today. That's really encouraging.
Fantastic. I don't know if is Mir back? Okay, let's wait for a few more seconds. Maybe he said he's joining from another device.
Yes. I also thank all the students for coming on a Friday night. That also shows your degree of interest and commitment. That if, after you finish your work or school week, that rather than relax on a Friday night, you have the motivation to come and listen that's a good leading indicator that you're going to do good things in your career.
I think Meet is back. Meet, can you unmute and say something?
And remember, this is an Ask Me Anything session, so you can ask me about my career. You can ask me about career challenges, questions you may have, in addition to competition questions.
Ian, Hayan is asking one more question. Can you please take it?
Which question is that?
I don't see any question.
Oh, there's one. Is the main focus of the project on development of the community or on energy usage and creation? And the answer is yes. All of our winners had a degree of that. Some went a little bit to one side, some went a little bit to the other. This is about energy innovation, so designing the infrastructure and being able to articulate what that infrastructure is about is clearly an important element. But good living, if you come up with energy solutions that are not consistent with good living, what have we done? And so that's why we kind of start with the aspirations of the community. We didn't have detailed designs of houses. We had floor plans and a summary of their energy consumption last year in some of our designs. But here's a helpful hint. If you have 5 electrical engineers on the team, but you haven't considered maybe an architect or an urban planner or a civil engineer, you may not have enough diversity of thought and skills on the team to put together an effective design. Although 2 of the winners last year only had 2 people on the team. So do look at the requirements. What are the aspirations of the community? What are resources available? What's on the ground? And it doesn't mean you have to come up with something completely radical. It could be a very efficient design that meets the need, like that design in Zimbabwe. What they noticed was the biggest problem was while they had connections to the utility grid, a lot of times that electricity didn't flow. So they didn't try to re-alter how to design a house. They designed the community to take advantage of community solar and battery backup so students could have internet connectivity and computer usage and phone usage when the power is out. So sometimes it's a really good design is almost so subtle you don't notice how good it is. So that might be some ways to think about it. The design for Dominica had 2 energy sources. It had a geothermal source and a wind turbine. The wind turbine was designed to stand hurricane force. But that was going to be a way to get reliable power in a hurricane and at lower continuous cost than burning diesel in generators. So they didn't try to throw everything in the design. They looked at what was important: energy cost, lower carbon intensity, power during a hurricane, and they came up with 2 things they could do different than the rest of the country in order to make sure that they met the design objective. They also made sure they built hurricane-proof houses. So that's an example. Okay, is Mir back? Or is that not going to work? Should we just pass on that?
I don't think Mir is back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Can you hear me
fantastic.
now? Is it clear?
Oh, yes, perfectly.
Thank you, Don and Elaine, for giving me this amazing opportunity to introduce myself. Uh, Hi everyone. My name is Uzair, and basically I'm from India. Last time we have created a project where we have integrated 7 different technologies. It was a multifaceted approach to create sustainable energy ecosystem. And I will say there are a couple of things which we have kept in our mind. So accordingly, we have designed the system. First was it was the overview, how the overview should be, like the project overview. Then how the technology will work in the project. So these are the two things which we have kept in our mind, and based on that, we have done calculations like how many we have at that time we have selected the location. It was Mangalore. It is a city of Karnataka. uh, so we have seen how many communities are there. So accordingly we have seen, if we will take the average of one home, like what is the average electricity they are, how much electricity they are using on daily basis. Then we have, accordingly we have planned to build something innovative, which will cut down the cost of electricity bills, so that a normal nurse or a teacher can afford that entire electricity. So that means it should be affordable, sustainable, and reliable. These are some of the key points which we have kept in our mind. Yeah. Is there
Hey, Mir,
anything else? Yeah, yeah,
can I ask you a personal development question?
yeah, yeah.
Have you changed either your skills or your outlook or perspective or your enthusiasm for energy as a result of having participated last year?
Yeah, when I participated in Energy Mentors, from that point, my entire journey got changed, because I am now deep into the energy sector. Because even though you may be we are like I am from aerospace background, but I have seen there is a very big gap in energy sector. We have available energies, but we are not able to capture the entire energy which is available to us. As Lane in the introduction, he mentioned that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be stored. But right now we are not able to store the entire energy. So I am now focusing on this sector, as I am passed out, and I have joined one more company which is into uh, which is into solar, and which is into sustainable energy and phases. So I have learned a lot of things from this competition, because I have worked on couple of softwares. That was really great for me. Yes.
Great. Hey, and you just reminded me of something that I forgot. Ian asked me about trends in energy, and energy storage is certainly a trend that I neglected to mention. But there's 5 gigawatts of energy storage by batteries on the Texas grid, and it's growing
Yeah.
year by year on a compound. So energy storage is an industry that from an electron point of view didn't really exist, half a decade ago. Of course, it did exist from the point of view of hydro and either pumped hydro or hydro reservoirs, which have a large amount of water stored. But energy storage is also a trend and a growing business and career opportunity. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mir. If possible, can we access past projects for inspiration and maybe develop? Yes, of course. The past projects have been shared through our YouTube channel. You can check on their projects. You can check on their interview.
Yeah,
You can access
the easiest way to find them is our website, www.energymentors.org. Past winners 2024. You'll see video clips. You'll see interviews with the teams. You won't see some of their detailed deliverables. but that should certainly give you a start. And then my helpful hint for teams this year is I personally, and I would think the judges would look favorable to see more technical deliverables from in terms of higher level concept designs showing layouts of houses. Some of our projects had that last year. Layouts of the electrical and energy grids, if you have natural gas in your design, how that might be distributed. One of our projects had bottled gas for cooking last year. And then showing your calculation work. We saw the evidence of the calculations and they passed kind of first principles analysis checking by the judges, but it'd be nice to show your work. So that's the best way. Go to the website, check out the link for the past winners at www.energymentors.org. My guess is that the technical competence will be higher than yours.
Sorry, Don?
Yeah, I kind of lost your audio for a while, but you're back now. So hopefully I wasn't talking over you and the students or the participants today could hear my answer. So, we lost Ian again. Now, another opportunity is if you come up with a question, you can use our email, info@energymentors.org, or the best thing is just contact Ian on the chat, and someone will get to you. So just because you didn't think of the question now, you can contact us either through the public channels, or if it's something that you might consider a competitive edge, you can do it by direct DM. Hey, Ian, you're back. What else?
Yeah, I think that was just all we could do for this session, unless somebody else has a question as we wind up, that maybe in the next 2 minutes we'll be closing it down.
Yeah, so let me just say some thank yous, okay? Thank you to the people who showed up and listened today. Hopefully, Ian and I and Mir, who we drug into this, provided some helpful hints. But thank you for having the interest of bringing solutions to the energy industry and to the citizens of the world. We thank you for that. We'd also like to thank our sponsors who are providing the bulk of the prize money. So Chart Industries, Aspen Technology, Ernst & Young, and our software sponsor, MathWorks. So without them, we couldn't continue to run the competition at its current level of prizes, so and the current level of support. So we thank them. And Ian, I thank you for the opportunity for talking today. So what closing words might you have?
I say thank you for all. Thank you for the people behind the scenes, the Night Owl Technology who behind the call. Thank you to you for joining and all those who have joined. So as we are closing, I know that those who would like to share it on LinkedIn that we have had this call. And now is your time. Maybe you can open your camera and take a screenshot. I don't know if Akash, you can also do it from our side. You can increase the tile. Can try to capture everybody on the screen.
Yes,
Those
yes,
would like
we can do that.
Okay, those would like to have the photo taken and for social media and LinkedIn. And you remember to tag us at Energy Mentors. You can also tag our sponsors. You can also tag John and I. Akash?
I can only unmute everyone, but everyone have to open their video themselves.
Okay. Those who would like to open their videos and be in the frame, please. And you can increase the tile from. You can even take from your side. I think from your side, you will have a lot of people on the screen.
Right now, just a second.
Okay.
Also want to give a shout out to Ian and talk about career progression. He, again, is someone who's self-empowered and self-nominated. He contacted me last year and said, hey, I'm looking to get into energy. I'm willing to volunteer. What can I do? And I gave him a task and he went off and did it. And now he's hosting these sessions and he's our participant coordinator. So just an example of how taking small actions, students can move themselves on their career journey. So you've been with us about 1.5 years now or so?
I'll be completing 1 year in November.
Okay.
But with the energy mentors is a year and a half because I started from IIT Europa Energy Mentors internship.
There you go. Okay, so we're going to get the matrix of everybody on the screen at once.
Akash?
Just a second, please. Without video, I cannot make everyone in the screen.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
So I will take a screenshot from directly and we can make it go.
Okay, do that kindly.
And you can share the screenshot on the WhatsApp to everybody.
Yes, it is taken.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you all for joining. Just for a small information I'd like to pass is that we'll be starting the closed office hours from next week. So we have one judge who will be available on 30th. I think I've already I'll be assigning it to one team that has a problem statement on grid energy, off-grid energy. So that team will be with that judge, and I will try to find out the timing and share it with you. Anyway, apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day. For those in the US, those in Africa and Asia, and enjoy the rest of your evening. For those in India specifically, happy Diwali in advance.